20 rounds left. That's it. That's all we've got. Cole Hadley's voice cracked when he said it. Around him, 5 soldiers bleeding into the rock. 1 unconscious. 1 missing half her leg. 40 enemy fighters closing from 3 directions. No air support. No reinforcements. No way off this mountain alive. He pressed the emergency beacon, a button he'd sworn in 12 years he would never touch, and whispered, "Then we make them earn every single one of us." 900 meters away, in total darkness, a woman no one could see chambered around, steadied her breathing, and started killing. Before we begin, subscribe to the channel and follow this story to the very end. Drop a comment with the city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. The bullet hit the rock 3 inches from Cole Hadley's left ear before he heard the shot. He dropped flat. Granite slammed against his chest plate. His brain registered 2 things simultaneously: the sharp whip crack of a high-velocity round passing through the space his head had occupied, and the wet spray of stone fragments peppering the side of his face. "Contact front! Contact front!" Corporal Megan Holt's voice ripped through the radio, raw and sharp. "Multiple shooters, North Ridge, 200 meters." Cole was already rolling, already pulling his rifle tight against his shoulder, already scanning. But there was nothing to scan. The fog was a living thing up here, thick and gray and hungry, swallowing muzzle flashes the instant they appeared. Then the mountain exploded from 3 sides at once. West side too!" That was Gibson, his machine gunner. The big man's voice carried a note Cole had never heard before. Not fear, Gibson didn't do fear, but something close to disbelief. "They're everywhere, Sarge." RPGs streaked through the fog like horizontal lightning. The first one hit 10 meters behind their column. The blast wave picked up Private Danny Ortega and threw him into a boulder with a sound Cole would hear in his nightmares for years. The kid bounced off the rock and crumpled. "Danny's down! Danny's hit!" Specialist Trey Gibson screamed from somewhere to the right. Cole's mind was running calculations even as his body moved on instinct. 3 directions of fire, coordinated timing, pre-registered mortar positions. This wasn't a chance contact. This was a planned kill box, and his team had walked directly into the center of it. "Fall back to the depression. Everyone move, now!" He grabbed Ortega by the drag handle on his vest and pulled. The young soldier's head lolled, his eyes half open, unfocused. Blood was already soaking through his side, dark and fast, the kind of bleeding that meant shrapnel had found something important inside. "Stay with me, Danny. Stay with me." Ortega didn't respond. Another RPG. This one closer. Cole felt the heat wash over his back, felt his ears ring and pop. He kept pulling, kept dragging, kept moving toward the shallow depression in the rock that was their only option. Holt appeared beside him, firing her carbine one-handed while she grabbed Ortega's other arm. Her blonde hair had come loose from its tie, streaked with dust and something darker. "I count 40, Cole, maybe more. They've got night vision." I noticed. "They've got drones too. I saw 2 overhead before the fog rolled in." I noticed that too. They dumped Ortega into the depression, a bowl of granite barely 30 feet across, with walls that rose maybe 4 feet on 3 sides. The 4th side was open, facing south, facing nothing but a 1,000-foot drop into the gorge below. Lance Corporal Nate Pruitt came stumbling in behind them. His left arm hung at a wrong angle, the forearm bent where no joint existed. Compound fracture. The bone hadn't broken the skin yet, but it was close. His face was white, his jaw clamped so tight the muscles stood out like cables. "Nate, your arm." "I know what my arm is." Pruitt dropped behind the wall, pulled his sidearm with his right hand, and started returning fire. "Worry about it later." Gibson came last, walking backward, his M240 barking in controlled bursts. The big blonde man moved with the calm deliberation of someone who'd been in this exact kind of hell before. He found a position on the northern wall, set up the bipod, and went to work. "Where's Voss?" Cole demanded. Here, sir. Specialist Jordan Voss crawled over the lip of the depression, his sandy hair matted with dirt, his young face a mask of controlled terror. He was 20 years old. This was his first deployment. His hands were shaking so badly he could barely grip his radio. "I'm here. I'm okay. Get on that radio. Get me anyone. Headquarters, fire support, air, anyone. They're jamming us, sir. Every frequency. I can't. Try harder." A mortar round impacted 20 meters south. The ground bucked beneath them. Rocks the size of fists rained down. Holt threw herself over Ortega's unconscious body. Cole pressed flat, tasting blood and granite dust. "They're bracketing us," Pruitt yelled. "Next one's going to be right on top of us." Cole knew. The enemy mortar team was walking their fire toward the depression, adjusting with each round. Professional technique, patient, lethal. These weren't local insurgents with rusty AK-47s and homemade explosives. These were trained soldiers with real equipment and real discipline. "Gibson, how much ammo?" The big man didn't look away from his sights. 400 rounds, maybe 20 minutes worth if I'm careful." "Be very careful." "Always am, Sarge." Another mortar round, 15 meters now. Closer. The blast shoved Cole sideways. His helmet cracked against the wall. Stars exploded across his vision. "Webb!" Cole shouted, then caught himself. Webb wasn't here. Webb had been reassigned 2 weeks ago. He still reached for a radio channel that didn't exist, still expected a voice that wouldn't answer. In combat, your brain betrayed you with habits from past missions. "Ortega needs a medic," Holt said. She'd torn open Danny's vest, pressed a wad of gauze against the wound in his side. Her hands were already dark with blood. "The shrapnel hit something, Cole. I can feel it pulsing under the gauze." "How bad?" Holt looked up at him. In 12 years, Cole had learned to read his soldiers' faces the way other people read books. Holt's face said, "He'll die if we stay here." "Bad enough," was all she said. Cole grabbed the emergency beacon from his vest pocket. The device was small, barely larger than a cigarette lighter. Cold black plastic. One button, one purpose. In all his years, he'd carried it like a talisman of failure. The thing you never used because using it meant everything else had already gone wrong. Everything else had already gone wrong. "Megan," he kept his voice level. 12 years of training kept it level. "I'm going to activate the beacon." She didn't flinch, didn't argue, didn't offer false hope about reinforcements that were 60 miles away or air support that couldn't fly in this weather. "Do it," she said. "Anyone else got a better idea?" The silence lasted 3 seconds. 3 seconds in which the only sounds were Gibson's machine gun, the crack of incoming fire, and Danny Ortega's shallow, rapid breathing. Pruitt spoke through gritted teeth. "Press the damn button, Cole." He pressed it. The device vibrated once. A brief, almost imperceptible tremor, and then went still. No light, no sound. Somewhere above them, encrypted signals were bouncing through military satellites, screaming into the void that 6 Americans were dying on a mountain and needed help that wouldn't arrive in time. Cole set the beacon on the ground and picked up his rifle. "Then we make them earn it. Every single one of us." Gibson nodded once without looking back. Pruitt chambered around in his pistol. Voss stopped shaking long enough to position his own weapon. Holt pressed harder on Ortega's wound with one hand and drew her sidearm with the other. And the enemy kept coming. The next 4 minutes were the longest of Cole Hadley's life. The mortar rounds found their range. The third impact hit the southern lip of the depression, collapsing a section of wall that had been Pruitt's cover. The lance corporal threw himself sideways, his broken arm hitting the ground. He screamed, a sound torn from somewhere deeper than pain, and then bit down on his own sleeve to silence himself. "Nate! I'm fine!" He wasn't fine. His face was gray, sweat poured down his temples. But he got back up, got his pistol back in his working hand, and kept firing. An enemy drone buzzed overhead, a small quadcopter with a thermal camera mounted underneath, circling lazily like a vulture that knew dinner was almost ready. It was feeding their exact positions to the enemy commander. Every time they moved, the enemy adjusted fire. Every position they took became a target within seconds. Gibson tracked the drone with his machine gun, fired a burst, missed. The drone dipped, circled, and returned to its orbit. Untouchable at that angle. "Forget the drone," Cole ordered. "Focus on the ground threats." "They're pushing the western approach," Holt called out. She'd moved to the edge of the depression, peering through her scope with the calm focus that made her the best shot on the team. 15, maybe 20, moving in a tactical line, professional spacing. "Gibson, shift fire west." The machine gun swung. Gibson opened up, the tracers drawing bright lines through the fog. The advancing line faltered. 2 men dropped. The rest dove for cover. But it was a feint. "East! East!" Voss screamed, his voice cracking. "They're coming up the east side!" Cole spun. Through the fog, shapes materialized. Dark figures moving fast, using the rocks as stepping stones. Close. Maybe 50 meters. How had they gotten that close? He fired. Saw a man stagger. Fired again. Another shape dropped. But there were too many, and they were too close, and Gibson couldn't cover both directions at once. "Pruitt, cover east with me." Pruitt crawled to his side, pistol extended. 15 rounds, he said. "That's all I've got." "Make them count." They fired together. Slow, deliberate. Every round aimed, every trigger pull a decision. An enemy soldier popped up 20 meters away, rifle leveled. Cole shot him in the chest. Another appeared to his left. Pruitt dropped him with 2 quick rounds, but for every one that fell, 2 more appeared. A burst of automatic fire stitched across the wall inches from Cole's head. Rock fragments slashed his cheek, his neck. Blood ran warm down his collar. He didn't wipe it, didn't have time. "Grenade!" Holt's voice pierced everything. Cole saw it, a dark shape arcing through the fog, bouncing once against the rock 3 feet from where Holt crouched over Ortega's body. It rolled, slowly, almost gently, coming to rest against Ortega's leg. 2 seconds to detonation. Time did what it always does in moments like this. It stretched. It broke apart into individual frames, each one sharp enough to cut. Holt looked at the grenade, looked at Ortega beneath her, looked at Cole, and threw herself over Danny Ortega's body. The explosion was a fist of white light and sound and pressure. It lifted Holt into the air. Cole saw her body rise, saw her limbs go loose like a doll's, saw her slam into the wall and slide down, leaving a dark smear on the granite. "Megan!" He was crawling before his mind finished processing what had happened. Crawling through dust and smoke and the sharp chemical smell of the detonation. He reached her, rolled her over. Her eyes were open, blinking, alive. "Megan, talk to me." "Can't feel my leg." Her voice was small, distant, like she was speaking from the bottom of a well. "Left leg, can't feel it." Cole looked. The shrapnel had torn through her left thigh, shredded the muscle below the knee. Her right arm had taken fragments too. The forearm was a mess of torn fabric and blood. Without surgery within the hour, she'd lose the leg. Maybe the arm. Maybe her life. He ripped open the medical kit. Tourniquet on the left leg. Tight. Tighter. She gasped, her back arching. He tied it off. Tourniquet on the right arm. Pressure bandage on the worst of the bleeding. "You're going to be fine, Megan." "Liar." She tried to smile. Almost made it. Danny Ortega was still breathing beneath her. Still unconscious, but alive. She'd saved him. She'd caught the blast meant for both of them, and she'd saved him. "How is she?" Gibson called without turning from his gun. "She needs a hospital." "Don't we all?" Gibson's machine gun fell silent. He slapped the weapon, pulled the feed tray. Empty. He reached for his last belt, 60 rounds, threaded it through with hands that moved from pure memory. Last belt, Sarge. When this is gone, I'm down to my rifle. 60 rounds, maybe 2 minutes of fire, against 40 or more trained soldiers who were tightening the noose. Cole did the math. He'd been doing the math all night, and the math kept getting worse. 20 rounds in his rifle. Pruitt's 15 pistol rounds. Gibson's last 60 for the machine gun. Holt couldn't shoot. Ortega was unconscious. Voss had a full magazine but had never fired at a living person. That was their entire war chest. Against an enemy with night vision, drones, mortars, armor support, and enough fighters to absorb everything Viper Recon could throw and still overwhelm them 10 times over. "Sir," Voss looked up from the radio. His young face was streaked with tears he probably didn't know he was shedding. "I got a partial signal through. Headquarters received the beacon. QRF is scrambling. ETA? 90 minutes, minimum." 90 minutes. Cole closed his eyes. 1 second. 2. Let the number settle in his chest like a stone. They couldn't hold 90 minutes. They couldn't hold 9. The ammunition alone made it impossible. Even if every round found its target, they'd be empty in 3 minutes. After that, it was knives and fists against rifles and grenades. He opened his eyes, looked at his team. Pruitt, gray with pain, still gripping his pistol. Gibson, feeding his last belt through the gun with absolute focus. Holt, bleeding and broken, still conscious, still watching the South with her sidearm resting on her stomach. Voss, terrified, young, still trying to raise someone on the radio. Ortega, breathing, but unreachable. This was where they would die. Cole had made peace with his own death years ago. Any soldier who served long enough eventually did. But watching his people die, his team, his family, that was something no amount of training prepared you for. He picked up his rifle, checked the chamber. 1 round seated, 19 in the magazine. These would be the last 20 bullets of his military career. "Trey," Gibson glanced over. "When your belt runs dry, fall back to me. We'll hold the center together." "Copy that. Nate, you cover our left." "With pleasure." Pruitt's voice was barely a whisper now. The pain was eating him alive, but his eyes were clear, focused, ready. "Jordan," Voss looked up. The kid's lip was trembling. "You did good tonight. I need you to keep doing good." Voss nodded, gripped his rifle, set his jaw. The enemy pushed again, all sides now. No more feints, no more probing. This was the final assault. Cole could hear their commanders shouting orders in the fog, coordinating the kill. Gibson opened up with his last belt. Brass casings flew. Tracers streaked. The gun roared its defiance into the night. Pruitt fired his pistol. Methodical. 1 shot per target. 12 rounds left. 11. 10. Cole aimed into the fog, squeezing the trigger when shapes appeared. His world narrowed to the reticle, the trigger, the recoil. 18 rounds. 17. 16. It wasn't enough. It was never going to be enough. A mortar round hit the eastern wall. The concussion slammed Cole into the ground. He tasted blood, felt something crack in his ribs. Rolled over, got back up, kept firing. 15 rounds. Gibson's machine gun went silent. The belt was done. The big man dropped behind the wall, drew his rifle, and joined the line. No words, no hesitation. 12 rounds left for Cole. 9 for Pruitt. A full magazine for Voss that the young soldier was burning through too fast. Gibson's rifle adding what it could. 8 rounds. 5. The fog swirled. Dark shapes pressed closer. 30 meters. 25. Cole could hear them breathing now, hear boots scraping on rock, hear the metallic clicks of magazines being changed. 3 rounds. This was it. Then, from somewhere in the darkness to the north, a single rifle shot split the night. The sound was wrong, different, distant, precise, and utterly out of place. Not the crack of a Kalashnikov, not the boom of a battle rifle. Something else, something Cole had never heard. On the western approach, an enemy soldier dropped. No warning, no cry. He simply folded forward and hit the ground like God had reached down and turned him off. His squad mates froze. A second shot. A second body. Cole stopped breathing. A third shot. This one from a different angle. A fourth, impossibly fast. The enemy advance stuttered, stumbled, and collapsed into chaos. Soldiers who had been seconds from overrunning their position scrambled backward, diving for cover, screaming for orders that no one was giving because the man giving orders had just become the fifth body to hit the ground. "Who the hell is shooting?" Gibson whispered. Cole raised his scope toward the northern ridge. Nothing. Rocks, fog, darkness. But out there, somewhere in that darkness, someone was hunting, and they weren't missing. 6 shots in 40 seconds, 6 bodies on the ground. Cole counted them through his scope, his heart slamming against his cracked ribs. Each kill was surgical. 1 round, 1 target, no wasted motion. Whoever was out there wasn't spraying and praying. They were executing a masterclass in precision violence. "Gibson, you seeing this?" "I'm seeing it." Gibson pressed his eye tighter to his rifle scope, scanning the northern ridge. "But I'm not seeing her. Whoever's shooting, they're invisible." "Her?" Thermal's picking up a single signature on the high ground. Small, light build. Gibson pulled back from the scope, his face caught between awe and confusion. "Sarge, I think it's a woman." Cole didn't have time to process that. The enemy's Western assault team, the 15 fighters who'd been moments from pouring over their wall, had reversed direction entirely. They were dragging their dead backward, stumbling over each other, firing blindly at a ridge they couldn't see through the fog. Another shot cracked from the north. Another body dropped. Pruitt let out a sound that was half laugh, half sob. "That's 7. She just dropped 7 guys in under a minute." "Save the admiration," Cole said. "We don't know who that is." "I don't care who it is. She's killing the people trying to kill us. That's enough for me." Holt stirred against the wall. Her face was chalk white, her breathing shallow, but her eyes were tracking. "Cole, the enemy comms." "What about them?" "Voss, put the intercept on speaker." Her voice was thread-thin but steady. The tourniquet on her leg was holding, but Cole could see the fabric beneath her was soaked through. She was losing blood faster than the pressure bandage could contain. Voss fumbled with his radio, found the frequency Holt had indicated. Enemy chatter flooded the depression, panicked voices shouting over each other in overlapping transmissions. Cole didn't speak the language fluently, but he caught enough. Words he recognized. Sniper, unknown position, spotter is dead, lost contact with marksman team, request reinforcement. "They're losing it," Gibson said quietly. "Listen to them. That's not tactical communication. That's fear." He was right. The disciplined enemy force that had orchestrated a flawless, 3-sided ambush was unraveling. Professional soldiers could handle a firefight. They trained for bullets and grenades in the chaos of direct combat. What they couldn't handle was death arriving silently from the darkness, choosing targets with invisible precision, killing without warning or pattern or mercy. That kind of threat broke something psychological. It turned soldiers into prey. Another shot from the ridge. This one sounded different. Farther away, a slightly changed angle. She'd moved. Relocated after a sequence of shots, the way any trained sniper would, but the speed of it stunned Cole. The terrain between those firing positions was near vertical granite, and she'd covered the distance in what felt like seconds. "Mortar team just went quiet," Pruitt reported, his ear pressed to the ground. "No more impacts. She must have hit them." Cole processed the tactical picture rapidly. In less than 2 minutes, this unknown shooter had neutralized the enemy's mortar team, killed or scattered their Western assault element, and eliminated their sniper support. The 3 pillars of the enemy attack, indirect fire, flanking maneuver, and overwatch, had all been knocked out by a single rifle. Voss, signal her. Open frequency. Tell her Viper Recon is grateful and ask if she needs support. The young specialist transmitted. His hands had stopped shaking. Something about knowing someone was out there fighting for them had steadied him. The response came in text, 8 words on the screen. Negative. Maintain position. Reinforce perimeter. I'll keep watch. That's it? Pruitt said. That's all she's got to say? That's all she needs to say. Cole read the message again. Professional. Detached. 0 wasted words. Military trained, without question. Special operations, almost certainly. But from what unit? What branch? There were no friendly forces assigned to this sector. He'd checked the operational map himself before they'd stepped off. Doesn't matter where she came from, Holt whispered. She'd pulled herself into a sitting position against the wall, her wounded leg extended, her good hand still gripping her sidearm. She's here. That's what matters. Cole nodded. She was right. Tactical analysis could wait. Right now they had something they hadn't had 10 minutes ago. Time. All right, listen up. Gibson, redistribute your rifle ammo. Give Voss 2 magazines. Nate, let me look at that arm. My arm's fine. Your arm is broken in 2 places and your face is the color of old paper. Let me splint it or you're going to pass out from shock and be completely useless. Pruitt grunted but extended the arm. Cole worked fast, pulling a field splint from the medical kit and binding the forearm tight. Pruitt hissed through his teeth, but didn't cry out. Danny? Cole glanced at Ortega. Holt answered. Still breathing, still unconscious. Pulse is weak but steady. He needs blood, Cole. Real blood, real IV, real hospital. QRF is 90 minutes out. He might not have 90 minutes. The words hung in the air. Cole looked at Ortega's face. 22 years old, brown hair matted with sweat, skin the color of wet ash. A kid who'd volunteered for reconnaissance because he wanted to prove he was brave enough. He'd proved it. Now he might die for it. He'll make it, Cole said. He wasn't sure if he believed it, but he said it anyway, because that's what leaders did. They said the things that needed to be true. The battlefield had gone quiet. Not silent, there was still movement in the fog, still the distant sound of enemy fighters repositioning, but the direct fire had stopped. The pressure had lifted. For the first time in 30 minutes, Cole could breathe without feeling a crosshair on his chest. She's still shooting, Gibson said. He had his ear tilted, listening. Hear that? Every 40, 50 seconds. Another shot. She's picking them off while they reposition. Cole listened. Gibson was right. The distant crack of the rifle came at irregular intervals. Not a pattern the enemy could predict, but steady enough to keep them pinned in place, afraid to move. She's hurting them, Holt said. Everyone looked at her. Think about it. She's not just killing targets of opportunity. She's hitting their command element, their support weapons, their communications. She's dismantling their ability to coordinate. Without coordination, they can't assault. Without assault capability, they can only sit and wait. Wait for what? For our QRF. She's buying us 90 minutes. Cole felt something shift in his chest. Not hope. He'd learned long ago not to trust hope in combat, but something adjacent to it. Something that made the next breath come a little easier. Who the hell is she? Voss asked. The kid's voice had steadied, but his eyes were wide, searching the darkness like he might catch a glimpse of their savior. Doesn't matter, Cole said again, but this time the words carried gratitude instead of caution. 12 minutes of relative quiet passed. Cole used every second. He tightened Holt's tourniquets, checked Ortega's pulse, thready but present, redistributed the remaining ammunition, counted what they had left, pathetic totals that would barely sustain a 2-minute firefight. Gibson repositioned the machine gun to cover the southern approach, the only direction that hadn't been hit yet. Pruitt, despite his broken arm, dragged rocks into place to rebuild the section of wall the mortar had collapsed. Voss kept cycling through radio frequencies, trying to re-establish contact with headquarters. Got something, Voss said suddenly. Partial intercept. Enemy frequency. Put it up. The transmission was fragmented, broken by static and distance, but Cole caught the key words. Vehicles. Armor. Reinforcements en route. His stomach dropped. Say that again, Voss. They're calling in armor, sir. 2 APCs and something bigger. Sounds like a BTR. Gibson looked up from his gun. His face said everything his mouth didn't. A BTR-80. 8-wheeled armored fighting vehicle. 14.5mm cannon that could chew through their rock cover like it was cardboard. Thermal imaging that would see through the fog. Infantry carrier that could deliver a dozen fresh fighters right to their doorstep. Against that, they had 3 rifles, a pistol, and a machine gun with no ammunition. The QRF? Cole asked. Still 75 minutes out. 75 minutes against a BTR. The math didn't just fail, it laughed. Maybe she'll handle it, Pruitt said. Everyone knew who he meant. She's got a rifle, Gibson replied flatly. You can't kill a BTR with a rifle. She's done a lot of things tonight that can't be done. Cole raised his scope and scanned the northern ridge. Nothing. No movement, no muzzle flash, no sign that anyone had ever been there. Had she heard the same intercept? Did she know what was coming? The answer came 3 minutes later. A shot from the east, not the north, the east. She'd moved again. And the enemy's radio chatter erupted into screaming chaos. Someone important had just died. Cole caught fragments. Commander down. Commander down. Who has command? The officer directing the reinforcements had been eliminated from a direction no one was watching. She heard it, Holt said. A ghost of a smile crossed her bloodless lips. She knows. Knowing and stopping a BTR are 2 different things. Cole, Holt caught his arm with her good hand. Her grip was weaker than it should have been. We're still alive. 20 minutes ago we were dead. She changed that. Trust her. I don't even know her. You don't need to. You know what she can do. The sound reached them before the vehicles did. The low growl of heavy diesel engines grinding up the mountain road. The metallic clank of tracks and wheels on stone. Cole felt it in his chest before he heard it with his ears. A vibration that meant something heavy and armored was coming. Contact, Southern Valley, Gibson reported. I can see headlights. 3 vehicles. Lead vehicle is a technical with a mounted gun. Second and third are APCs. And behind them, he trailed off. Say it. BTR-80. Cannons traversed forward. They're coming straight up the main road. How long? 10 minutes to weapons range, maybe less. Cole looked at his team. Holt, bleeding. Ortega, unconscious. Pruitt, broken. Voss, terrified. Gibson, steady but running on fumes, and empty weapons. We can't fight armor, Pruitt said quietly. It wasn't defeat in his voice. It was arithmetic. No, we can't. So what do we do? Cole didn't answer. He was watching the northern ridge, the eastern slopes, every shadow and rock face where a single shooter might be hiding. Waiting for a shot, waiting for a sign. The technical truck rounded a curve in the road. The heavy machine gun mounted in its bed swept left and right, the gunner standing tall behind it, scanning for targets. He should have ducked. The rifle shot came from the east, at least 800 meters, maybe more. The gunner's body snapped backward. He fell out of the truck bed and hit the road like a sack of grain. Before the driver could react, a second shot punched through the windshield. The truck veered left, bounced off a boulder, and stopped dead. 2 shots, 2 kills. She just killed a moving technical from 800 meters. Gibson's voice held something Cole had never heard from the unshakable machine gunner. Reverence. Pure reverence. The APCs accelerated. Their commanders had seen the technical go down and made the smart play. Button up, close hatches, push through the kill zone at speed. Armor would protect them where the technical's open bed could not. But the lead APC had one weakness: an external fuel tank bolted to its rear quarter panel, a standard addition for extended mountain operations, and a thin-skinned target that no amount of main armor could protect. Cole saw the fuel tank rupture before he heard the shot. Diesel sprayed across the engine compartment in a dark fan. Black smoke erupted from the vehicle's rear. The APC ground to a halt, its engine choking. Crew members tumbled out the rear hatch, coughing, stumbling. 2 of them fell before they made cover. The rest scattered into the rocks. "She hit the fuel tank," Gibson said, "from that range, on a moving vehicle in this visibility." He set down his scope and looked at Cole. "I've been shooting for 15 years. I couldn't make that shot on a range in broad daylight." The second APC's commander sealed his hatch. Smart, but the BTR, the real threat, the one that could end everything, kept coming. Its commander stood in the open hatch, shouting orders, directing the dismounted infantry that was fanning out on both sides of the road. "She can't penetrate that armor," Cole said. "Not with a rifle. The BTR is going to get through." "Maybe not the armor," Holt murmured, "but the man standing in the hatch isn't armored." Cole understood. Take out the commander and the BTR lost its eyes. Its decision-maker. The crew inside would be blind, dependent on limited vision blocks, uncertain without orders. But she'd need an angle. The hatch is partially covered from the north and east. She'd have to... The shot didn't come. 1 minute. 2. The BTR kept grinding forward. The cannon traversed slowly, scanning for targets. "Why isn't she shooting?" Voss asked. "She's moving," Holt said. "She needs a better position, better angle. She's running out of time. She knows that." Cole gripped his rifle. His knuckles were white. He could see the BTR now with his naked eye, a dark shape emerging from the fog, massive and implacable. In 2 minutes it would be in position to fire. Its 14.5mm cannon would destroy their cover in seconds. After that, the infantry would sweep in and finish what the cannon started. Everything they'd survived, the ambush, the mortar fire, the grenade that nearly killed Holt, the 4 minutes of hell when they'd been down to their last rounds, all of it would mean nothing if that BTR reached firing position. "Come on," Cole whispered. He didn't know he was speaking aloud. Come on, take the shot." A crack from high and west. New position. She'd climbed. Higher than before. The angle was steep, almost impossible. The BTR commander jerked. His body slumped across the hatch rim, arms dangling, blocking the hatch from closing. The vehicle stopped. Dead stop. No one inside knew what to do. Pruitt let out a breath he'd been holding for what felt like a year. "She got him." "Through a partially covered hatch," Gibson added. "At that angle, at that range." He shook his head slowly. "That's not skill. That's something else." But the battlefield wasn't done testing her. A bullet sparked off the rock near the western ridge. Return fire from a position Cole hadn't tracked. Someone was shooting back at her. Someone who'd been waiting, watching, patient enough to spot her muzzle flash. "Enemy counter-sniper," Gibson reported, scanning hard. "Southern cliff face, 900 meters from her position." Cole's throat tightened. She'd been invincible for 20 minutes, untouchable, a ghost that killed without consequence. But now someone was hunting the hunter, and all it took was one bullet to turn their savior into another casualty. He watched through his scope, helpless. The distances were too great for his rifle. The angles were wrong. There was nothing Viper Recon could do except watch and pray. A second enemy round cracked through the air, close to something. Cole couldn't tell what. Then 2 shots fired almost simultaneously, 2 different weapons, 2 different calibers. The sounds overlapped so tightly that Cole couldn't separate them. Silence. "Who got hit?" Pruitt demanded. "Which one went down?" Gibson was already scanning. His scope swept the southern cliff face. "Enemy sniper is down. He fell. I can see the body on the rocks below." "And her?" Gibson shifted north, scanned, Scanned again. I can't find her. Cole's heart stopped. What do you mean you can't find her? I mean, her thermal signature is gone. She's not in the last position. She's not in any position I can see. 4 seconds of silence that lasted forever. Then a rifle shot cracked from 800 meters east, and another enemy soldier crumpled beside the stalled BTR. Pruitt actually laughed. A real laugh, full and unguarded. She's alive. She moved again. She won the duel, and she moved. Gibson exhaled and put down his scope. His hands were trembling. The first time Cole had ever seen that from the big man. That woman just fought a counter-sniper engagement at 900 meters, won it, relocated and re-engaged from a completely new position, all in about 15 seconds. Who is she? Voss asked again. The question had become something different now, not tactical curiosity, something closer to wonder. Cole watched the BTR sit motionless on the road, its commander's body still draped across the hatch. The dismounted infantry was scattering, retreating, abandoning their vehicles. Without leadership, without armor support, without any way to locate the ghost that was killing them, the enemy's reinforcement column had become a collection of frightened individuals running for their lives. The fog was thinning. The first gray light of dawn bled through the clouds to the east. Voss, QRF status. 40 minutes out, sir. They pushed up the timeline. Helicopters are wheels up. 40 minutes. Cole looked at his team. At Holt, pale but breathing. At Ortega, still unconscious but his pulse holding steady. At Pruitt, splinted and gray but defiant. At Gibson, shaking his head in disbelief. At Voss, no longer the terrified kid who'd crawled into this depression hours ago. They were going to make it. Out in the darkness, the rifle spoke again. Steady, patient, relentless. She was still out there, still working, still standing between Viper Recon and everything trying to kill them. Cole set down his weapon and closed his eyes. Not to sleep, not to rest, just to listen to the sound of someone fighting for them. Someone they'd never met and might never meet. Someone who had abandoned her own mission to answer a distress signal from strangers on a mountain. He opened his eyes when the distant rifle fell silent. Not because she'd stopped shooting, because there was no one left to shoot. The silence was worse than the gunfire. Cole opened his eyes and listened. No rifle shots, no mortar impacts, no enemy chatter on the intercepted frequency, just the wind pushing fog through the rocks and the ragged breathing of 5 wounded soldiers in a granite hole. Gibson. Yeah, tell me what you see. Gibson raised his scope and swept the perimeter. Slow, methodical. The big man's hands had stopped trembling, but his movements carried the exhaustion of someone who'd been running on adrenaline for 2 hours and was now hitting the wall. Bodies on the western approach. 3, no, 4. Technical truck is still smoking on the road. Lead AP, C disabled. Crew scattered. BTR is stopped dead. Commander still hanging out the hatch. Gibson paused, kept scanning. I count maybe a dozen enemy fighters still alive in the rocks to the south. They're not moving, not shooting, just sitting there. Waiting for what? I think they're trying to figure out if they want to die today. Pruitt shifted against the wall, cradling his splinted arm. Can't blame them. I wouldn't want to move either if some invisible demon was picking off everyone who twitched. She stopped shooting, Voss said. The young specialist had his radio pressed against his ear, monitoring every frequency he could reach. About 2 minutes ago. Last shot I heard was east of us. Nothing since. Cole felt the question form before he could stop it. Was she hit? Had the counter-sniper duel cost more than they knew? Had she taken around and crawled behind a rock to bleed out alone? The way snipers sometimes did, silent to the end, invisible even in death. Maybe she's relocating, Gibson offered, reading Cole's expression. Maybe. Or maybe she ran out of targets and she's watching, waiting to see if any of them are stupid enough to try again. Holt coughed. It was a wet sound, and Cole was beside her instantly. "Talk to me, Megan." "I'm cold." That was bad. Cold meant shock. Cold meant her body was pulling blood away from her extremities to protect her core. Cold meant the clock was running faster than he'd calculated. "Voss, QRF update, now." 32 minutes, sir. They've got 2 Black Hawks inbound. Medevac is following 10 minutes behind. Tell them we have 2 urgent surgical. Life or limb. They need to know before they land. Copy. Cole pulled off his jacket and laid it over Holt. She was shivering now, small tremors that made her teeth click. Her eyes were glassy, drifting. "Stay awake, Megan. That's an order." "Since when do I take your orders?" "Since right now. Talk to me. Tell me something." "What do you want to hear?" "Anything. Tell me about that restaurant you keep talking about. The one in Virginia." "Antonio's." Her lips curved, barely. "My dad used to take us there after church. Every Sunday. Chicken parmesan the size of your head." "You're taking us there when we get home. All of us. Your treat." "My treat?" She coughed again. "On Corporal's pay?" "I'll chip in. Keep talking." "The bread, Cole. They bake it fresh. You can smell it from the parking lot. Danny would love it. He's always talking about his mom's cooking, but he's never had Antonio's bread." "We'll take Danny. He'll love it." At the sound of his name, Ortega stirred. His eyelids fluttered. His fingers twitched against the rock. "Danny?" Cole leaned over him. "Danny, can you hear me?" A groan, low, pained but conscious. Ortega's eyes opened halfway. He stared at Cole without recognition for 3 long seconds. Then something clicked behind his pupils. "Sarge?" "Yeah, buddy, I'm here." "What happened? I can't. My side." "You took some shrapnel. You're going to be fine. Choppers are coming." "Did we win?" Cole looked at the battlefield, at the bodies, at the burning vehicles, at his shattered, bleeding, unbroken team. "Yeah, Danny, we won." Ortega's eyes closed again, but his breathing steadied. Deeper, more regular. He was sleeping now, not unconscious. The difference was everything. "He's back," Gibson said quietly. "Kid's tough." "They're all tough." Cole stood slowly, his cracked ribs screaming. Every single one of them. A burst of static erupted from the intercepted enemy frequency. Voss grabbed his radio, listened hard, and his face changed. "Sir, remaining enemy fighters are pulling out. Full withdrawal south through the gorge. Their commander, the new one, the replacement, just ordered everyone to disengage and exfil immediately." "Reason?" "He said they've lost 30% of their force and can't locate the shooter. He called her," Voss paused, translating carefully. "He called her the ghost that eats bullets. He's ordering his men to leave before she kills them all." Pruitt barked a laugh that turned into a groan when his arm shifted. "The ghost that eats bullets. I love it. That's going on a t-shirt." "Nobody's putting anything on a t-shirt," Cole said. But he felt it too. The strange giddiness that came when your brain realized you weren't going to die after all. It made you want to laugh at things that weren't funny. Made you want to cry at things that shouldn't matter. Made the simple act of breathing feel like the greatest privilege you'd ever been granted. "They're moving," Gibson confirmed. "I can see them. 8, 10 guys heading south fast. They're not even collecting their dead. They just won out." Cole watched them go. Part of him, the tactical part, the part that had spent 12 years learning to kill efficiently, wanted to engage. They were exposed, retreating, easy targets. He let them go. "Hold fire. Everyone hold." "You sure?" Pruitt asked. "They're done. Let them run." The last enemy fighters disappeared into the fog. One by one, their radio transmissions faded into static and then silence. Within 5 minutes, the only sounds on the mountain were wind and the distant rumble of approaching helicopters. Gibson lowered his weapon, leaned back against the wall, closed his eyes. Pruitt released the grip on his pistol for the first time in 2 hours. His fingers had cramped into claws. He flexed them slowly, wincing. Voss sat down hard on the ground, pulled his knees to his chest, and put his head down. His shoulders shook. Cole pretended not to notice. "Movement," Gibson said. His eyes snapped open. His weapon came up. "Where?" "North Ridge, single figure. Coming down." Cole raised his rifle. The scope showed a shape descending the mountainside, moving fast but controlled, picking a path through the rocks with the confidence of someone who'd mapped every handhold in advance. The figure was small, fluid, almost liquid in the way it flowed over terrain that should have been impassable. "If she wanted us dead," Holt said from the ground, "we'd already be dead." Cole lowered his rifle. The figure reached the base of the ridge and emerged from the fog 20 meters from their position, and stopped. Cole's first thought was that Gibson had been wrong about the height. She wasn't 5 feet 6 inches. She was closer to 5 feet 5 inches, compact and lean in a way that suggested not smallness, but efficiency. A body stripped of everything unnecessary, built for endurance and silence, and the kind of patience that could hold a position for days without moving. Her blonde hair was cut short, practical, barely visible beneath a battered boonie cap that looked like it had survived more deployments than most soldiers. Her face was angular, sharp-featured, streaked with dirt and carbon residue from her weapon. Her eyes, pale blue, steady, impossibly calm, met Cole's and held them. Her rifle hung across her chest, a weapon Cole didn't immediately recognize, long, suppressed, with a scope that probably cost more than his truck back home. Custom-built, precision instrument for a precision operator. No unit patches, no rank insignia, no name tape, no flag. Nothing on her uniform that identified her as American military, or military at all. But the way she stood told Cole everything. The weight distribution, the awareness, the casual readiness that meant she could go from standing still to firing in under a second. She'd earned every ounce of that posture. "Viper Recon?" Her voice was quiet. Not soft. There was nothing soft about it, but controlled, measured. The voice of someone who chose every word the way she chose every shot. "That's us." Cole stepped forward. His legs felt like they belonged to someone else. "Staff Sergeant Cole Hadley, acting commander." She nodded once. "You saved our lives," Cole said. "All of us. We owe you." "You held your ground." She cut him off without rudeness. "Just efficiency. I evened the odds. You did the rest." Pruitt hobbled forward, his splinted arm pressed against his chest. "Ma'am, with all due respect, I counted what you did out there. That wasn't evening odds. That was bending the laws of physics and making them apologize." Nothing crossed her face. No pride, no modesty, no reaction at all. She was already scanning the perimeter, checking angles and approaches, maintaining situational awareness even now, even after the enemy had fled. "You're wounded," she said, not a question. She'd seen them, assessed them, probably calculated their survival odds before she'd come down from the ridge. "Too urgent. Corporal Holt, shrapnel, left leg and right arm. Tourniquets holding, but she's going into shock. Private Ortega, penetrating abdominal wound, was unconscious for over an hour, just came around." She unclipped a small medical kit from her pack and held it out to Cole. "Military-grade coagulant, antibiotics, clotting accelerator. Give the coagulant to your corporal now. It'll buy her another 30 minutes. Cole took the kit. His hands were shaking. Hers weren't. "Gibson," Cole called, "get this to Holt. Coagulant first." Gibson took the kit and moved to Holt's side. He opened it, studied the contents, and went to work. Holt flinched when the coagulant powder hit her wound, then let out a long breath as it began to take effect. "That's good stuff," Gibson said. "Where'd you get this? This isn't standard issue." The woman didn't answer. She was watching Ortega now, studying his breathing pattern, his color, the way his hands moved. "He'll make it," she said. "The shrapnel missed his liver. He's stable enough for transport." "How can you tell from there?" Gibson asked. "I've seen enough gut wounds to know the difference." The words landed like a stone in still water. No bravado, no elaboration, just the flat statement of someone who'd spent years in places where gut wounds were routine. "Reinforcements are 15 minutes out," she said. "2 Black Hawks, 1 medevac. I've been monitoring their frequency." "Stay," Cole said. It came out less like a request and more like a plea. "They'll want to debrief you. We can get you extracted, get you—" "Negative." The word was final, absolute. "I have my own mission to complete." "At least tell us your name, your unit, something so we can find you, so we can—" "Ren." She said it the way someone states a mathematical fact. No decoration, no context, just the word itself. "Ren," Cole repeated. "That's all?" "That's all you need." She turned to leave, took 2 steps, then stopped. "Sergeant." "Yeah?" She didn't turn around. Her voice carried over her shoulder, still quiet, still controlled, but with something underneath it now, something warmer, something human. "You fought well tonight. Your team has real discipline, held together when everything said you should break. That's not training, that's character." "They'll tell stories about this night," Cole said. "About you." She did turn then, and smiled. It lasted maybe 2 seconds, a small, quiet expression that changed her entire face, softened the hard angles, warmed the pale eyes, revealed the person behind the operator. For that brief moment, she wasn't a weapon, or a ghost, or a legend. She was a woman who'd run 6 miles through hostile terrain to save strangers because she couldn't bear not to. "No, they won't," she said, "because this never happened." She started up the mountain. Cole watched her move, fast, certain, choosing a path through the rocks that seemed to exist only for her. Within 10 seconds, the fog had swallowed her legs. Within 20, her torso dissolved into gray. Within 30, she was gone. Completely. As if the mountain had opened its mouth and taken her back. Voss stared at the empty ridge. Did that just happen? Cole looked down at the medical kit in his hands, at the coagulant that was saving Holt's leg, at the antibiotics that would keep Ortega alive until surgery. "Yeah," he said, "it happened." "Nobody's going to believe us," Pruitt said. "I know. She killed at least 25 people tonight, disabled 3 vehicles, won a sniper duel, saved all 6 of us, and she just walked away without even telling us her last name." "I know." "That's insane, Cole." "I know, Nate." Gibson was still looking at the spot where she'd vanished. "I've served with Force Recon. I've trained with Delta. I've been on joint ops with Tier 1 units from 4 different countries. I have never, not once, seen anything like what she did tonight." Holt's voice drifted up from the ground, drowsy now from the coagulant's sedative properties. "She wasn't showing off. Did you notice that? Not a single wasted movement. Not a single unnecessary shot. She did exactly what needed to be done and nothing more." "That's what scared me," Gibson said quietly. "That's what saved us," Cole replied. The helicopters arrived 11 minutes later. 2 Black Hawks came in hard and fast, their rotor wash blasting fog aside in great swirling curtains. Door gunners scanned the perimeter. Infantry poured out before the skids fully touched rock. "Viper Recon! Viper Recon, identify yourselves!" "Over here," Cole waved. 6 personnel, 2 urgent surgical, 4 ambulatory wounded. Medics swarmed Holt and Ortega. Stretchers materialized. IVs went in. Vital signs were called out in rapid medical shorthand that Cole only half understood. He watched them load Holt onto the helicopter, watched her hand reach out and grip the medic's sleeve. "Tell Hadley, Antonio's, Sunday." The medic looked confused. Cole heard it through the rotor noise and nodded. "I'll be there, Megan." Ortega was loaded next. The kid was conscious now, groggy but aware, asking questions the medics didn't answer. His eyes found Cole's as the stretcher passed. "Sarge, who was shooting? From the ridge. Who?" "Later, Danny. I'll tell you everything later." The QRF commander, a captain with the hard face of someone who'd been woken from sleep and thrown into a helicopter, approached Cole with a tactical map. "Sergeant Hadley, I need a sit rep. What happened here?" Cole opened his mouth, closed it, looked at the battlefield, the bodies, the burning vehicles, the craters and bullet scars and blood-dark stains on the granite. "We were ambushed, 40-plus enemy fighters, coordinated assault, 3 directions. We activated the emergency beacon and held our position until QRF arrival. And the enemy casualties. They sustained significant losses and withdrew. How? With 6 soldiers, 2 of them critically wounded." Cole met the captain's eyes. He chose his next words carefully. "We maintained fire discipline and used the terrain to our advantage." The captain looked at him for a long time. Then he looked at the bodies scattered across the western approach, at the disabled APC leaking diesel, at the BTR with its dead commander draped across the hatch. "You did all this with fire discipline and terrain?" "Yes, sir." The captain's jaw worked. He wasn't stupid. He could count the bodies. He could see the distances. He could calculate that no 6-person recon team, no matter how skilled, could produce this kind of carnage with the ammunition they'd carried. "Is there anything else you want to add to your report, Sergeant?" Cole thought of the woman on the ridge, the quiet voice, the pale blue eyes, the smile that lasted 2 seconds and meant everything. "No, sir. That's the complete account." The captain stared at him. Cole stared back. "All right," the captain said finally. "Get your team on the bird. We'll debrief at Iron Ridge." Cole turned away. Pruitt was waiting, his good arm supporting Voss, who'd finally let the exhaustion hit him and was barely standing. "What did you tell him?" Pruitt asked. "The truth." "Really?" "Our truth, not all of it." Pruitt nodded. He understood. Some things didn't fit inside official reports. Some things lived only in the memories of the people who'd been there, who'd heard the shots and seen the bodies fall, and watched a woman walk out of the fog and back into it like she was made of the same stuff. Gibson helped Cole onto the helicopter. The big man's face was drawn, his eyes bloodshot, his body running on nothing but stubborn refusal to quit. "Hey, Sarge." "Yeah, Trey." "You think she made it back? To whatever mission she was on?" Cole looked out the helicopter's open door as it lifted off. The Blackstone Mountains fell away beneath them, gray rock and white fog and the dark smudges of a battlefield that would be cleaned up and classified and forgotten by everyone except the 6 people who'd almost died on it. Somewhere down there, a woman with a rifle was moving through the fog. Alone. Silent. Heading toward a mission she'd abandoned to save them and was now returning to finish. "Yeah," Cole said. "She made it." The helicopter banked east toward Iron Ridge. Below them, the mountain kept its secrets. And somewhere in its folds and shadows, a ghost named Wren disappeared into the gray, leaving nothing behind but shell casings and the impossible fact of 6 soldiers still breathing. The quiet lasted 11 minutes. Cole counted every one of them. He used the time the way any good soldier would, checking wounds, redistributing ammunition, reinforcing what little cover they had left. But his mind kept drifting north, to the ridge, to the silence where gunfire should have been. "She's still up there," Gibson said, reading his thoughts. "Thermal signature just popped back. She's repositioned again. 1,500 meters northwest, high ground." "Why'd she stop shooting?" "Because there's nothing moving. Everything south of us is either dead or hiding." Pruitt was flexing his good hand, trying to keep the blood flowing. "So we just wait? 30 minutes for the QRF?" "We wait," Cole confirmed. "She's got Overwatch. We've got—" Boss ripped off his headset. Sir, something in the kid's voice made every head turn. Talk to me, Jordan. I've been monitoring their frequencies, the ones she didn't destroy. Voss swallowed hard. They're not retreating. The pullback. It wasn't a withdrawal. They're consolidating at the base of the valley, and they've called in reinforcements. Cole felt the words hit his chest like a physical blow. What kind of reinforcements? Vehicles. Multiple. I'm hearing engine designations I don't recognize, but one of them... Voss looked up from his radio. His steadied composure from 10 minutes ago was cracking. One of them is a BTR-80. Nobody spoke for 3 seconds. Gibson broke the silence. That changes everything. Cole knew. A BTR-80 was an 8-wheeled armored fighting vehicle with a 14.5mm cannon that could tear through their rock cover like wet cardboard. Thermal imaging that rendered fog irrelevant. Armor plating that laughed at rifle rounds. It was designed to destroy fortified positions and kill everything inside them. She can't stop a BTR with a rifle, Gibson said. Nobody can. Then we move, Pruitt said, before it gets here. We carry Holt and Ortega and we go where? Cole gestured at the terrain around them. South is a cliff. East and west are open ground. North puts us on the ridge with no cover and no extraction point. The QRF is landing here. We leave this position, they can't find us. If we stay, that cannon will find us first. I know. Holt stirred. The coagulant had stabilized her bleeding, but she was pale, shivering under Cole's jacket. How long until the vehicles arrive? Unknown. Could be 10 minutes, could be 5. And the QRF? 28 minutes. Holt closed her eyes. When she opened them, they were clear, focused. The corporal was still in there, still calculating, still fighting. She'll figure something out. Megan, she's one person with a bolt-action rifle against an armored column. She was one person against 40 fighters with mortars and night vision and drones, and she won. Cole wanted to argue, but Holt was right. Everything he'd seen tonight defied what he knew about probability, about capability, about the limits of what one human being could accomplish alone in the dark. Gibson, keep scanning. I want to know the second those vehicles come into view. Copy. The sound reached them before the lights did. A low mechanical growl rolling up through the valley floor, reverberating off rock walls. Diesel engines under load. Something heavy grinding over stone. Contact south. Gibson's voice dropped to a near whisper, as if the vehicles could hear him. Headlights coming up the main road. I count 3 sets. Lead vehicle is a technical, heavy machine gun mounted in the bed. Behind it, 2 larger profiles. AP, cease. And behind those, say it, Trey. BTR-80. I can see the turret. Cannons forward. Cole pressed his back against the wall and looked up at the sky. Gray. Lightning. Dawn was maybe 40 minutes away. The QRF was 27 minutes out. The BTR was less than 10 minutes from weapons range. 27 minus 10. 17 minutes of armor fire that his team could not survive. She knows, Voss said suddenly. She has to know. She's been monitoring their comms too. Knowing and stopping are different things. A rifle shot cracked from the east. Not the north where they'd last tracked her thermal signature. The east. She'd moved, covered 500 meters of mountain terrain in the time it took Cole to have a conversation. The technical truck's gunner snapped backward and tumbled out of the bed. The vehicle swerved. A second shot punched through the windshield. The truck careened off the road, struck a boulder, and died. 2 shots, Gibson breathed. She killed the gunner and the driver of a moving vehicle from 800 meters in the dark, in under 4 seconds. See, Pruitt said. Told you. Laws of physics, apologizing. But the APCs kept coming. Their commanders had witnessed the technical die and made the right call. Hatches sealed, buttoned up, pushing through the kill zone on armor and speed. Cole tracked the lead APC through his scope. The vehicle was a standard personnel carrier, lightly armored, but effective against small arms. Its weak point was the external fuel tank bolted to the rear quarter panel, a thin metal container that provided extra range for mountain operations at the cost of vulnerability. He saw the shot before he heard it. The fuel tank ruptured in a spray of diesel. Black smoke billowed from the engine compartment. The APC lurched, ground to a halt, and began to burn. Not dramatically, no Hollywood explosion, but a steady, choking fire that filled the mountain air with acrid smoke. The rear hatch blew open. Crew members tumbled out, coughing, stumbling blind through the smoke. 2 of them dropped before they reached cover. The others scattered into the rocks. "She hit the external fuel tank," Gibson said. His voice had passed through disbelief, through awe, and arrived at something close to reverence. "On a moving vehicle, at extreme range, in fog." "The second APC?" Cole asked. "Buttoned up, accelerating, trying to push through." "And the BTR?" Gibson paused. When he spoke, the reverence was gone, replaced by cold math. "Still coming. Commander is still in the open hatch. He's directing dismounted infantry on both flanks. Maybe 15 guys on foot using the vehicles as cover." "She can't penetrate the BTR's armor." "No, she can't." Cole watched the armored column advance. The second APC had increased speed, rocking over the rough road. The BTR ground forward behind it, patient, inevitable. Its turret traversed slowly, the cannon searching for targets. "If that cannon opens up on us," Pruitt said quietly, "there won't be enough left of this position to debrief." "I know, Nate. So what's the play? We can't fight it. We can't run from it. We can't hide from it." "I don't have a play. I'm watching the same thing you're watching." Then the shot stopped. 30 seconds of nothing. The vehicles kept moving, the infantry kept advancing, and the rifle on the ridge went silent. "Where is she?" Cole demanded. Gibson scanned. "Lost her thermal. She's gone." "Gone where?" "I don't know. She dropped off scope. Either she found deep cover or she's moving fast enough that I can't track her between positions." 60 seconds. The BTR was 800 meters out and closing. Cole could hear the cannon's servo motors whining as the turret adjusted. The dismounted infantry spread wider, using rocks and vehicle hulls for cover, professional and deliberate. "She left," Voss said. The kid's voice cracked. "She did what she could and she left." "She didn't leave," Holt's voice from the ground, weak but certain. "She's not the kind who leaves. You don't even know her. I know what she did for the last 2 hours. People who do what she did don't quit." 90 seconds. 700 meters. Cole could see the BTR's hull with his naked eye now, a dark, angular shape pushing through the thinning fog. "QRF is 22 minutes out," Voss reported. "I told them about the armor. They're requesting air support, but nothing is available in theater." 22 minutes. An eternity. Cole checked his rifle. 3 rounds. Gibson had maybe 15. Pruitt's pistol held 7. Against a BTR cannon, they might as well throw rocks. Then, from high and west, a completely new direction, a position at least 200 meters higher than anywhere she'd fired from before. A single shot cracked through the pre-dawn air. The BTR commander jerked in his hatch. His body pitched forward, caught on the rim. His arms dangled inside the vehicle. The hatch, blocked by his torso, couldn't close. "She got him." Gibson's voice was barely audible. "She climbed. She went high enough to get an angle down into the hatch, and she got him." The BTR stopped. Dead stop. No commands from above, no eyes to direct the crew. The vehicle sat on the road like a beached whale, its cannon still traversing on its last programmed arc, pointing at nothing. "Dismounted infantry is confused," Gibson reported. "They've lost command. Half of them are looking at the BTR, half are scanning the ridge. Nobody's advancing." A bullet sparked off rock near the western ridgeline. Then another. Cole heard the distinct crack of a rifle different from hers, sharper, faster. "Counter sniper," Gibson shouted. "Someone's shooting at her position. Southern cliff face, 900 meters from where she fired." Cole's heart seized. She's been made? They had a backup shooter. He was waiting. He let her fire and tracked the flash. Another round cracked across the valley. This one impacted close to the high western position, close enough to mean the enemy sniper had her bracketed. "She's pinned," Pruitt said. "If she moves, he'll see her. If she stays, he'll zero her." Cole gripped his rifle. The range to the enemy sniper was at least 1,200 meters, far beyond his weapon's effective capability. There was nothing he could do except watch. "Come on," he whispered. "Move. Get out of there." 2 seconds. 3. The enemy sniper fired again. Rock chips exploded from the western position. Then something happened that Cole would replay in his memory for the rest of his life. 2 rifles fired simultaneously. The sounds overlapped so perfectly that for a fraction of a second, Cole thought it was a single shot echoed by the mountains. But the acoustics were wrong. 2 different calibers, 2 different positions, 2 different angles. Silence. "Gibson, report." The big man was already scanning. His scope swept south. Stopped. "Enemy sniper is down. He's falling. I can see the body going off the cliff." "And her?" Gibson shifted north, west, back again. His jaw tightened. "I can't find her." "What do you mean?" "I mean her thermal is gone. I don't have her anywhere." Cole's stomach fell through the floor of the world. He'd heard 2 shots. One of them had killed the enemy sniper. The other had gone somewhere. If it had found her. "She's dead," Voss said. "Oh God, she's—" A rifle shot from 800 meters east. An enemy soldier beside the stalled BTR folded and dropped. Pruitt actually shouted. A raw, wordless sound of release that echoed off the rocks. "She's alive! She won the duel and she moved and she's still shooting." "That's impossible," Gibson said. But he was grinning. The first real grin Cole had seen from the man all night. "She fired, killed the counter-sniper, relocated a quarter-mile across broken terrain, and re-engaged from a new position. All in about 20 seconds. "Stop saying impossible," Holt murmured. "That word doesn't apply to her." The effect on the battlefield was immediate and devastating. The remaining infantry, 15 men who'd been following the armored column with confidence in their vehicles and their backup sniper, had just watched both advantages evaporate. Their armor was leaderless, their sniper was dead, and the ghost on the ridge was still hunting. Cole watched them through his scope. He could see the moment each man's resolve broke. It happened differently for each one. A glance over the shoulder, a step backward, a weapon lowered just slightly. But the result was the same. One by one, they stopped being soldiers and started being survivors. Another shot from the east. An enemy fighter who'd been trying to rally his squad mates jerked sideways and fell. That was the tipping point. "They're running," Gibson reported. "Full retreat. No order, no coordination. They're just running south." "All of them?" "All of them. Leaving the vehicles. Leaving their dead. Leaving their weapons. They are done." Cole listened to the enemy frequency one last time. A single voice, ragged with fear and exhaustion, transmitting to anyone who would listen. He caught fragments. "Pull back, disengage, she's everywhere, can't locate, too many dead, abort." Then the frequency went silent. The last rifle shot echoed across the valley and faded into the mountains. Nothing followed, no return fire, no explosions, no screaming, just the wind, just the fog, just the sound of dawn breaking over a battlefield that belonged to the dead. "Gibson, final count." Gibson swept the entire perimeter, slow and thorough. His voice when he spoke was flat with exhaustion, but underneath it was something deeper. 26 enemy KIA visible from our position. 3 vehicles disabled or destroyed. 2 crew-served weapons neutralized. 1 enemy sniper eliminated in counter-sniper engagement. He lowered his scope. 1 friendly shooter, 1 rifle, 0 friendly casualties from her engagement. 0, Cole repeated. 0. 26 men, 3 armored vehicles, a sniper duel at 900 meters, and not a single round had come close to Viper Recon once she'd started shooting. Pruitt slid down the wall until he was sitting on the ground. His pistol fell from his hand. He stared at it like he'd forgotten what it was. I've been in the Army for 8 years. I have never seen anything like this. I will never see anything like this again. You won't, Gibson agreed, because people like her don't exist, except she does. Ortega stirred on the ground. His eyes opened, clearer than before. What happened? Is it over? It's over, Danny. Cole knelt beside him. You're safe. I heard shooting, a lot of shooting, and then nothing. That's about right. Who was it? Who was out there? Cole looked at the northern ridge. The fog was thinning with the approaching dawn. The rocks were just rocks again. Gray, cold, indifferent. Nothing moved. No thermal signature. No shadow that didn't belong. Wherever she was, she'd already vanished. Someone who gives a damn, Cole said quietly. Holt reached out and gripped Cole's hand. Her fingers were cold, her grip weak, but her eyes were fierce. We're alive, Cole. Yeah, Megan, we're alive. All of us. All of us. She squeezed once and let go. Her eyes closed, not unconscious, just finished. Finished fighting, finished calculating, finished being strong. She'd held herself together for 2 hours with shrapnel in her leg and an arm that might never work right again, and now she was allowing herself the luxury of letting go. Voss pulled off his headset. QRF is 15 minutes out. 2 Black Hawks and a medevac bird. They know about the armor. They know about our casualties. They're coming in hot. Good. Cole stood. His cracked ribs sent fire through his torso. His face was crusted with blood from a dozen cuts he couldn't remember receiving. His legs shook under his own weight. He turned and faced the northern ridge one last time. The fog was lifting. The first pale light of dawn touched the high rocks and turned them gold. Somewhere up there, a woman was moving, silent, alone, already heading back to whatever mission she'd abandoned to save 6 strangers. He didn't know her name. He didn't know her unit. He didn't know if he'd ever see her again, or if she'd disappear into the classified darkness that her kind of operator inhabited. But he knew one thing. She'd heard their call, and she'd answered. Not with words, not with promises, with the only thing that mattered when death was closing in. Action. The distant sound of helicopter rotors reached them from the east, growing louder by the second. Viper Recon was about to be pulled off this mountain, but the mountain wasn't done with them yet. The rotor sound was still 3 miles out when Gibson's scope caught movement on the southern ridge. We've got a problem, Cole turned. Gibson's face had gone rigid, the expression of a man who just allowed himself to believe it was over and was being told it wasn't. 4 tangos, southern cliff face. They're setting up a firing position overlooking the landing zone. They're what? They must have circled back, or they never left. Either way, they've got a direct line of sight on the only flat ground big enough for a helicopter. Cole felt the realization hit him like ice water. The enemy couldn't beat Viper Recon anymore, not with their force shattered, their vehicles destroyed, their command structure dead. But they didn't need to beat Viper Recon. They just needed to stop the helicopters from landing. A Black Hawk coming in for extraction was the most vulnerable thing on a battlefield. Slow, loud, committed to a flight path. 1 RPG, 1 well-placed burst from a heavy weapon, and 30 tons of helicopter and crew would become a fireball on the mountainside. Range to the enemy position? 600 meters. They've got cover. Good cover. I can see one guy with what looks like an RPG-7, and the others have rifles. Can you engage? Gibson shook his head slowly. I've got 8 rounds for my rifle. At 600 meters, in these conditions, I'd need to be lucky to hit one of them. and they're dug into rock. Even if I get a hit, the other three are still there. Pruitt? Pistol range is 40 meters on a good day, Cole. I'm useless at this distance. Voss? The young specialist looked at his rifle, looked at Gibson, looked at Cole. I've never fired past 200 meters. Honestly, I'd just be wasting ammo. Cole did the math one final time. 3 shooters against 4 entrenched enemies at 600 meters, with a total of maybe 25 rounds between them, while 2 teammates were too wounded to fight. The helicopters would be in RPG range within 4 minutes. Call the Blackhawks. Tell them to abort the approach. If they abort, we don't get extracted. If they don't abort, they get shot down and we lose 2 helicopter crews, plus ourselves. Voss grabbed the radio. His hands were shaking again. Reaper 1-6, this is Viper Recon. Abort approach. Repeat, abort approach. Enemy anti-air position on southern cliff face. You are flying into a... The pilot's voice came back hard and steady. Viper Recon, we see you. We're not leaving you on that mountain. Can you suppress the threat? Cole took the radio. Negative, Reaper. We are combat ineffective. Less than 30 rounds total. We cannot suppress. Copy, Viper. We're going to attempt an alternate approach from the... Negative. There is no alternate approach. The southern cliff dominates every viable LZ within 2 clicks. You come in from any direction, they'll have a shot. Silence on the radio. The pilot was processing the same impossible arithmetic Cole had already done. Viper Recon, be advised, we are 15 minutes to bingo fuel. If we don't land in the next 12 minutes, we have to RTB. You will not have another extraction window for at least 6 hours. 6 hours. Holt didn't have 6 hours. Ortega might not either, and the enemy had called for reinforcements. In 6 hours, this mountain could be crawling with fresh fighters. Understood, Reaper. Stand by. Cole set down the radio and looked at his team. Nobody spoke. Nobody had to. They all understood the situation. 4 enemy fighters stood between them and survival, and Viper Recon had nothing left to fight with. I'll go. Gibson stood up. Give me all the remaining rifle ammo. I'll work my way south, close the distance. Get within 200 meters and take them. That's 400 meters of open ground, Trey. They'll see you before you get halfway. Maybe, maybe not. The fog's still... They have optics. They'll see you. Then I'll be a distraction. Draw their fire. You get the helicopters in while they're focused on me. That's suicide. It's math, Sarge. 1 life versus 2 helicopter crews and 6 soldiers. It's the right call. I'm not making that call. Then I'm making it for you. Gibson started checking his rifle. His movements were calm, deliberate, the movements of a man who'd already decided. Trey. Cole grabbed his arm. Don't. Gibson looked at him. The big man's blue eyes were clear, peaceful. Megan's got a restaurant she needs to take us to. Danny's got a mom who needs him home. Voss hasn't even lived yet. You think I'm going to sit here and watch them die because I was too scared to run 400 meters? Nobody's calling you scared. Then let me go. The argument might have continued. It might have ended with Gibson walking into the open and dying on that slope. Another body on a mountain that had collected too many already. Cole would never know what would have happened, because that was the moment a rifle shot cracked from the northern ridge. One of the 4 enemy fighters on the southern cliff slumped forward. She's back. Pruitt's voice was raw. She's still up there. A second shot. A second body. The remaining 2 fighters scrambled, abandoning their RPG position, diving behind rocks. A third shot caught one of them mid-stride. He spun and fell. The 4th man, the one with the RPG, rose from cover and pointed the launcher toward the northern ridge, toward her. Cole screamed something. He didn't know what. A warning that couldn't possibly travel 600 meters to a woman who couldn't possibly hear him. The RPG launched. The rocket streaked north, trailing smoke. A rifle shot crossed its path, going the other direction. The RPG gunner dropped. The rocket sailed over the ridge and detonated harmlessly against the mountain face, 200 meters behind the position she'd been firing from. "She killed him before the rocket hit her position," Gibson whispered. "She fired at the same time he did. She saw the RPG pointed at her, and she still took the shot." The southern cliff was clear. 4 enemy fighters, eliminated in under 20 seconds. The landing zone was open. "Reaper 1-6, this is Viper Recon. Threat neutralized. LZ is clear. You are cleared to land." "Copy, Viper. Inbound, 60 seconds. Cole sank against the wall. His legs wouldn't hold him anymore. His body had finally run out of whatever chemical compound had been keeping him functional for the past 3 hours. "She heard us," Voss said. "She heard our radio traffic about the anti-air position, and she took them out." "She was monitoring our frequency the whole time," Holt murmured from the ground. "Watching us, protecting us, even when we couldn't see her." "She nearly ate an RPG doing it," Pruitt added. "That warhead passed right over her position." "She knew it would," Gibson said. "She calculated the trajectory. She knew the rocket would miss if she stayed low. She timed her shot to kill the gunner before he could adjust aim and fire a second round." He sat down heavily. "I want to meet this woman. I want to shake her hand, and then I want to sit in a room for about 3 hours while she explains how any of this is physically possible." Movement on the North Ridge. Single figure. Coming down fast. Cole pushed himself upright. His ribs screamed. His head pounded. Every joint in his body felt like it had been filled with ground glass. He didn't care. She emerged from the thinning fog 20 meters away, the same way she'd appeared in the darkness, suddenly, silently, as if the mountain had simply allowed her to exist. In the first gray light of dawn, Cole saw her clearly. Shorter than he'd imagined, blonde hair, short and practical, plastered to her skull with sweat. Face smeared with carbon and dirt, sharp-featured, lean. Eyes the color of winter sky, pale blue, steady, carrying the weight of everything she'd done without bending under it. Her rifle hung across her chest. Her chest rose and fell in measured rhythm, not winded, not shaking, not anything except completely, impossibly composed. "Viper Recon." "That's us," Cole stepped forward. "For the last time, that's us. And you just saved us. Again. The anti-air position was a threat to your extraction. I removed it. You nearly took a rocket to the face removing it. The trajectory was 2 meters above my position. Acceptable margin." "Acceptable?" Pruitt laughed and winced. "She calls 2 meters acceptable." The helicopters thundered overhead. The rotor wash hit them like a warm hurricane, blasting fog aside, sending loose equipment tumbling. 2 Blackhawks flared hard and dropped onto the only flat ground available. Door gunners swept the perimeter. Boots hit rock before the skids were stable. "Viper Recon, identify and board." "Go," Wren said. "Get your wounded on those birds." "Come with us." "Negative. I have a mission." "Your mission nearly got you killed by an RPG. My mission is the reason I was in these mountains. Your emergency was an interruption. A necessary one, but an interruption." Cole stared at her. "An interruption? You call the last 3 hours an interruption?" "I call it what it was. 6 soldiers needed help. I provided help. Now I need to return to my primary objective before the window closes." "At least tell me something, anything. Who sent you? Who you work for? How you learned to shoot like that?" "I learned from my father. In Montana. We hunted elk." The ghost of something warm crossed her face. "He used to say the quietest hunter brings home the most game." "Your father taught you to kill 28 people and disable armored vehicles?" "My father taught me patience. The military taught me the rest." The medics were already on hold. IV lines, pressure bandages, rapid assessment. Someone shouted about the tourniquet being textbook. Another medic reached Ortega, started working. The stretchers appeared. "Cole!" Holt's voice, barely audible over the rotors. The kit. Her kit. It saved my leg. Tell them what she gave us. Cole held up the medical pack. A medevac medic grabbed it, examined the contents, and looked up sharply. Where did you get this? This is Tier 1 medical. This isn't standard issue for any conventional unit. It was a gift. From who? Cole glanced at Wren. She shook her head once, barely perceptible. From a friend, Cole said. They loaded Holt. She gripped the stretcher rail and locked eyes with Wren as they carried her past. Thank you. For all of it. Wren nodded. Nothing more. Ortega went next, conscious now, confused, asking every medic who touched him what had happened and why there were bodies everywhere. His eyes found Wren as the stretcher passed. He stared. Who are you? Nobody, Wren said. Nobody saved my life? Your team saved your life. Your corporal threw herself on a grenade for you. Remember that. Ortega kept staring as they loaded him. His mouth moved, but no sound came out. The helicopter doors closed. Sergeant Hadley! The QRF commander jogged over, a captain with hard eyes who'd been surveying the battlefield with growing disbelief. Sit rep, now, what the hell happened on this mountain? We were ambushed by a superior force. We activated our beacon and held position until QRF arrival. And the 26 bodies? The destroyed vehicles? The BTR with a dead commander hanging out the hatch. We fought back. With 6 people? 2 of them critically wounded? Yes, sir. The captain looked at Wren. She looked back with the flat, unreadable gaze of someone who'd had this conversation before and knew exactly how it ended. Who are you? The captain asked. She's leaving, Cole said. The captain's jaw tightened. I need to debrief everyone present at this engagement. That includes, she's not present. She was never present. Cole held the captain's stare. 6 soldiers held a defensive position against a superior force. That's the story. That's the only story. The captain was no fool. He could read the situation. The woman with no patches, no insignia, no identification. The Tier 1 medical kit. The marksmanship that bordered on supernatural. He knew what she was, even if he didn't know who. Get on the helicopter, Sergeant. Yes, sir. Cole turned to Wren. The rotors beat the air behind him. His team was aboard. The mountain was letting them go. I don't know how to thank you for this. You don't need to. You held your ground. That's thanks enough. Will I ever see you again? No. She said it without cruelty, without sadness, just the simple statement of a fact, the way she'd stated everything else tonight. Clean, final, true. Then I'll say it now. Whatever mission you're on, whatever they sent you out here to do, you come home safe. You hear me? You finish your mission and you come home. Something shifted in her eyes. For a fraction of a second, the operator disappeared and the person appeared. The woman beneath the training, beneath the call sign, beneath the years of learning to be invisible. And in that fraction of a second, Cole saw something he hadn't expected. Loneliness. Not the temporary loneliness of a solo deployment, something deeper, something permanent. The loneliness of a person who had chosen a life where she would save people and never be known by them, protect strangers and never be thanked, make the impossible possible and never be believed. I always come home, Sergeant. The mask was back. The operator returned. It just takes me longer than most. She held out her hand. Cole took it. Her grip was firm, calloused, warm. Goodbye, Cole. It was the first time she'd used his first name. It hit him harder than anything had hit him all night. Goodbye, Wren. She released his hand, turned, and started up the mountain. Her stride was steady, purposeful, carrying her back toward the mission she'd abandoned 3 hours ago to answer a beacon from strangers. Cole watched her climb. The fog was lifting fast now, and in the growing dawn light, he could track her longer than before. She moved through the rocks with fluid precision, not hurrying, not hesitating, each step exactly where it needed to be. At 50 meters, she was a silhouette. At 100, she was a shadow. At 150, she was a suggestion of movement that might have been wind. At 200 meters, she was gone. "Sergeant!" the QRF captain shouted over the rotors. "We need to go, now!" Cole climbed into the Black Hawk. Gibson grabbed his arm and hauled him aboard. Pruitt sat against the bulkhead, his splinted arm cradled against his chest, his face gray but his eyes bright. Voss was already buckled in, his head leaned back, his mouth moving in what might have been a prayer. The helicopter lifted, the mountain fell away. The battlefield shrank, the craters, the bodies, the burning vehicles, all of it becoming smaller and less real with every foot of altitude. Gibson leaned close. "She's really gone? She's really gone. You think she'll be okay? Out there alone?" Cole looked out the open door at the Blackstone Mountains disappearing beneath the clouds. Somewhere in those peaks, a woman with a rifle was walking alone through enemy territory, returning to a mission that nobody would ever know about, carrying secrets that nobody was authorized to ask about. "She's been okay alone for a long time, Trey. Longer than any of us." "That's not an answer. It's the only one I've got." The helicopter banked east. The morning sun broke through the cloud cover and painted the mountain range in shades of gold and amber. It was beautiful in the way that only violent places could be beautiful. Savage and indifferent and achingly alive. Pruitt spoke into the silence. "What do we tell people?" "The truth." "Which truth? The one where we held a defensive position through clever tactics? Or the one where a woman nobody's ever heard of killed 28 people and stopped an armored column with a bolt-action rifle?" "The first one, for now." "And the second?" Cole looked at each of them. Gibson, steady and haunted. Pruitt, broken and defiant. Voss, young and forever changed. The empty seats where Holt and Ortega should have been. "The second one stays with us, between us, nobody else, not until she says different." "She said it would never happen," Gibson reminded him. "I know what she said. So it's a secret." "It's not a secret, Trey. It's a debt, and we carry it until we can repay it." The helicopter flew east toward Forward Operating Base Iron Ridge. Inside, 5 soldiers sat with a story they couldn't tell, a gratitude they couldn't express, and the memory of a woman who had walked out of the darkness and back into it, leaving nothing behind except their lives. Cole closed his eyes, not to sleep, to remember. The quiet voice, the pale blue eyes, the 2-second smile, the grip of her hand, the loneliness he'd seen when her mask slipped. He wondered if anyone had ever told her she mattered. Not her skills, not her marksmanship, not her ability to dismantle an enemy force single-handedly, but her, the person, the woman who'd run 6 miles through hostile terrain because she couldn't bear to let strangers die. He wondered if she knew that 6 people on a helicopter would carry her with them for the rest of their lives. The mountains disappeared below the clouds. The helicopter flew on. And somewhere behind them, alone on a ridge the color of dawn, a ghost named Wren chambered a fresh round, shouldered her rifle, and moved north toward her mission. 3 days felt like 3 years. Cole sat in a windowless room at Forward Operating Base Iron Ridge, his cracked ribs wrapped tight, his face stitched in 4 places, his hands still carrying the faint tremor that comes from sustained adrenaline withdrawal. Across the table sat a colonel he'd never met, silver-haired, sharp-eyed, with the patient expression of a man who'd spent 25 years separating lies from truth. "Your after-action report is unusual, Sergeant." "Yes, sir." "You claim a single, unidentified sniper eliminated approximately 28 hostile combatants, disabled 3 armored vehicles, won a counter-sniper engagement, neutralized an anti-air position, and then disappeared on foot without debriefing." "That is correct, sir." The colonel set down his tablet, leaned back, studied Cole the way a doctor studies an X-ray, looking for what's broken beneath the surface. and this individual identified herself only as Wren. Yes, sir. There is no operator with that call sign in any unit assigned to this theater. We've checked with JSOC, SOCOM, every Special Operations Command within 3,000 miles, CIA Special Activities Division, British SAS Liaison, Australian SASR. Nobody has an operator matching your description operating in the Blackstone region. Cole said nothing. He'd expected this. Your team has been interviewed separately. Staff Sergeant Gibson, Lance Corporal Pruitt, Specialist Voss, even Corporal Holt from her hospital bed. Their accounts are identical, word for word, detail for detail. Because they're telling the truth. Or because 6 soldiers agreed on a story. With respect, sir, we didn't have time to coordinate a cover story. We barely had time to stay alive. The colonel stood, walked to the far wall. His boots echoed in the empty room. Here's what I know, Sergeant. I know that Viper Recon was ambushed by a force that should have annihilated you. I know that 28 enemy combatants are dead on that mountain. I know that a BTR-80, 2 APCs, and a technical truck are destroyed or disabled. I know that your team had fewer than 30 rounds of ammunition remaining when the QRF arrived. He turned. And I know that the mathematics of what you're describing are impossible. I watched it happen, sir. All of it. I'm not questioning your integrity. I'm questioning the implications. Which are that someone is operating in these mountains without authorization, without oversight, and without any chain of command I can identify. That someone with extraordinary capabilities is conducting solo operations in a theater of war, making life and death decisions with no accountability. She saved 6 American lives. This time, what about next time? What if her judgment is wrong? What if she engages the wrong target? What if her unsanctioned presence compromises a larger operation? Cole thought about Holt in the hospital, awake, expected to keep her leg because of a medical kit that shouldn't have existed. He thought about Ortega, sitting up in bed, eating solid food, asking when he could rejoin the unit. He thought about Pruitt's arm, pinned and healing, about Gibson's steady hands, about Voss, who'd walked into that mountain a boy and walked off it something else. Sir, I understand the concern, but I was there. My team was dying. We had no ammunition, no support, no hope. That woman heard our beacon and ran 6 miles to enemy territory to save people she'd never met. I don't care what authorization she had. I care that my team is alive. The colonel was quiet for a long time. Here's what's going to happen. His voice shifted, softer, more deliberate. Your team is being awarded the Bronze Star for valor under fire. Your after-action report will be classified and refiled under a different operational designation. And officially, Viper Recon was extracted by helicopter after successfully evading a superior enemy force through superior tactical discipline. Sir, that's how it happens, Sergeant, because the alternative creates questions that neither of us is authorized to answer. Cole understood. He hated it, but he understood. Some truths were too large for official channels. Some people operated in spaces between what governments acknowledged and what actually happened in the dark places of the world. One more thing. The colonel returned to the desk and produced a plain manila folder. No markings, no classification stamps, no return address. This arrived this morning by courier, no origin documentation. The envelope said only, "For the team from Viper Recon." Cole opened the folder. Inside was a single photograph. A woman standing on a mountain ridge at sunset, blonde hair catching the last light, her rifle slung across her back, her face turned slightly away from the camera, enough to see the line of her jaw, the set of her shoulders, but not enough to identify her in a lineup. Below the image, handwritten in precise lettering, "Where others see only darkness, I see the path forward." Cole stared at it, His throat tightened. His eyes burned in a way that had nothing to do with the dust and smoke of 3 days ago. She'd sent proof. Not for the file, not for the colonel, for them. For 6 soldiers who needed to know she was real, that the night on the mountain wasn't a fever dream born of trauma and blood loss, that the ghost who'd saved them existed somewhere beyond the fog. Keep it or don't, the colonel said, but understand, officially, she doesn't exist. She exists, sir. This photograph proves it. Photographs prove nothing in this business. People see what they need to see. Then I need to see this. My team needs to see this. The colonel held his gaze for 3 heartbeats, then nodded once. Dismissed, Sergeant. Cole stood, tucked the photograph inside his jacket, walked to the door. Hadley. He turned. The colonel's expression had changed. The interrogator was gone. In his place was something older, something that looked like a man who'd carried his own secrets for too many years. If she's real, and I'm not saying she is, then she chose to save your team at significant personal risk. She violated her own mission parameters. She compromised her own safety. She did all of that for strangers. He paused. In my experience, people who make that choice don't do it for medals or recognition. They do it because something inside them won't allow them to do otherwise. Yes, sir. That kind of person deserves to be remembered, even if it's only by the people she saved. We'll remember, sir, every day. Cole left the room and walked through the base until he found the tent where Viper Recon was waiting. They'd gathered without being asked. Gibson sitting on a cot, Pruitt leaning against a pole with his arm in a proper cast now, Voss cross-legged on the floor. Even Holt was there, in a wheelchair, her left leg elevated, her right arm in a sling, her face pale but her eyes alive. Ortega sat beside her. He'd checked himself out of the medical ward against doctor's orders. His side was bandaged, his movement stiff, but he was upright, present, breathing. All of them, breathing. Cole pulled out the photograph and held it up. Nobody spoke. They didn't need to. Gibson leaned forward, studying it with the intensity he brought to everything. Pruitt closed his eyes briefly, then opened them, wet. Voss reached out and touched the edge of the photo with his fingertip, gently, as if it might dissolve. Holt took it from Cole's hands, held it in her lap, ran her thumb across the handwritten words at the bottom. Where others see only darkness, she read aloud, I see the path forward. That's her, Ortega said quietly. That's really her? That's her, Cole confirmed. She sent this to us? To us, nobody else. Ortega stared at the photograph. His eyes were bright. She told me nobody saved my life. She said Holt saved my life. The grenade. She was right, Holt said. She was deflecting. She saved all of us and then told me to thank someone else. Ortega shook his head. Who does that? She does, Gibson said. That's exactly who she is. Cole took the photograph back, held it so they could all see it one last time. Someone's going to ask us what happened on that mountain. Someday, somewhere, at a bar, at a reunion, at a family dinner. They'll ask how Viper Recon survived against 40 fighters with no ammunition and no support. And we tell them the official story, Pruitt said. We tell them the official story. Superior positioning, fire discipline, enemy mistakes. We tell them we were lucky and we were good and we held our ground. And the truth? The truth stays here, between us. 6 people and a photograph and a name that doesn't exist in any file. Wren, Voss said. He said it quietly, the way people say words they want to protect. Wren, they repeated, all of them, together. Cole tucked the photograph into his jacket pocket. He'd carry it there for the next 14 years, through 2 more deployments, through promotion, through marriage and fatherhood, through the long nights when the mountain came back to him in dreams. He'd carry it until the edges were soft, and the image was faded, and the handwriting was almost too faint to read. But the words would always be there. He'd memorized them the moment he first read them. Where others see only darkness, I see the path forward. They left the tent together, 6 soldiers who shared a secret that would bind them for the rest of their lives. They'd scatter eventually, different units, different bases, different chapters of different stories. Gibson would make sergeant major. Pruitt would leave the army and open a woodworking shop in Vermont with one arm that never bent quite right. Voss would become a communications officer and teach young soldiers to keep trying the radio when every frequency was jammed. Holt would return to full duty, lead her own recon team, and retire as a first sergeant who never once spoke about the night she threw herself on a grenade. Ortega would serve 3 more deployments and name his daughter Grace, because that's what he'd been given on a mountain when he didn't deserve to die. But once a year, every year, they'd meet. A quiet dinner at a restaurant in Virginia that served chicken parmesan the size of your head and bread you could smell from the parking lot. They'd order a 7th chair, leave it empty, set a glass of water in front of it. Nobody would ask who the empty chair was for. They all knew. And somewhere, in mountains they'd never see, in operations they'd never hear about, in the quiet spaces between what governments admitted and what actually happened in the dark, a woman with blonde hair and pale blue eyes was still moving, still watching, still choosing to answer beacons that weren't meant for her, still running toward danger because something inside her couldn't do otherwise. She would never sit in that chair. She would never taste Antonio's bread. She would never know that 6 people thought about her every single day. But she didn't need to know, because the people who change your life the most are rarely the ones who stay. They're the ones who appear in your darkest moment, do what no one else can do, and disappear before you can say the words that matter. Wren never needed their words. She'd already heard them, in the beacon's signal, in the way they held their ground, in the fact that 6 soldiers refused to die on a mountain that wanted them dead. That was enough. That was always enough. And the legend of Wren, the quiet ghost of the Blackstone Mountains, the woman who cleared a battlefield alone and walked away without a name, lived on in the only place legends truly belong. Not in files, not in medals, not in official reports stamped classified and buried in government archives, in the hearts of the people she saved. That is where heroes live forever.